Hey Last Looks crew, ever wonder what a second AD does? Or maybe what the relationship is between them and hair and makeup teams? Or maybe you know all that, but don't realise how important that relationship is. Well, today we're chatting with Second Assistant Director Jeremy Silveira. I met Jeremy back on Captain Marvel, and at that stage he was our wonderful Basecamp PA, also another incredibly important role. But now he's moved on up to the world of call sheets as a second AD. I knew Jeremy would be the perfect person to talk to because one, he actually listens to episodes of the podcast of artists he knows he will be working with in the future. So in other words, he does his homework. And number two, I think he's great, and I look forward to working with him again in the future. And don't forget guys, if you want to support the podcast, you can do so by sharing the show with others, or you can buy the podcast a coffee. The link is in the show notes below this episode. My name is Jamie Lee, a film hairstylist living in Long Beach, and this is the Last Looks podcast, a show where I normally catch up with hairstylists and makeup artists working in the film and television industries around the world. But today, our guest is Second AD Jeremy Silveira. Let's go.
And now, our feature presentation.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Jeremy.
Hi, glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Now, you're a second AD, and when I worked with you, you're a Basecamp PA. I loved working with you for many reasons, but one is because you're great at your job. So I wanted to chat to you about the Basecamp relationships and dynamics between your team and hair and makeup. I want to shed light on some things that we do that drives you guys crazy or stuff we could do to help with general efficiency and just help get talent to set on time. So let's start simple. What is your role in the AD department?
So the simplest version of my job is I deal with the call sheet, and it's kind of like I deal with tomorrow and what's happening the next day and just making sure everyone's ready and aware of that. But then once tomorrow is usually really figured out about a week before. And so it's just constantly looking ahead and making sure that we're ready for everything that's coming up and just keeping people up to date with the constant changes and dealing with the cast and making sure they're happy and actually show up and know what to do in the background and making sure we get the right background that we need and they show up and know what to do. And it's a lot of just behind the scenes management. So that way the director can have what he wants on set to have fun with.
At every job, I'm like praying and hoping and wishing that I have a great relationship with the second AD because the AD department and PAs, oh my God, they make or break it for me. Like if I have PAs that aren't great, I'm just like, this is a struggle. And I think it's a struggle for everybody if that's the case. And then ADs, I just want to have a great relationship with them because I want to be able to get them what they need and I want them to be able to easily communicate with me so I know what's going on as well. So what should that relationship kind of look like with hair and makeup and your department?
I think a lot of it is trust and just a friendship and trust, because we work on these projects for so long together that it's not fun if you're coming to work and having to talk to and work with someone that you don't actually enjoy spending time with every day.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable. It's going to happen. There's always going to be that one person, but it's just so much nicer when you can actually get along with that human being, which is why I totally understand why teams stay together. Cause it's like, I found my people. There might be people better in different things, but like this group knows how we want to work together. And even honestly, just it was like you were saying with how you hope you have a good relationship with the ADs and the PAs. Like I've hired PAs based on who the hair, makeup, and costume team is going to be, because I know that relationship is going to work better than one who isn't. Like if I was doing a project with you and Heba or something like that, before I call a second AD, I'm probably calling Mia and making sure that she can run Basecamp, because I know that relationship is then solid. I have Basecamp squared away because I've just hired someone who knows how to work with the hair and makeup team. Done. Problem solved.
She knows how to work with those crazies.
Yeah. She understands how to handle you people. And so And so things are fine.
Well, I mean, that's a good example, really, because of someone, just being great at their job. And the first job that I met you on, we had a base camp PA and it was not going well. And then all of a sudden Jeremy was there and it was just like, oh my God, the change. Just that, immediately.
Yeah. That's such a weird story for me because, so the quick version of it is I was a DGA trainee for Captain Marvel. And I was assigned to the show. It was a whole thing with like Disney HR really wanting a trainee on the thing. So I was kind of forced on the AD team. They didn't like know me or request me, but they were all nice people. And so they were like, we'll figure out something to do with this kid. But they were already staffed up. So I kind of floated around aimlessly, like begging for lockups, or Katie would find something for me to do to like pass the time and annoy her less.
Yeah.
And that was my first couple weeks, but part of that was I did one or two things with Bree and prep. And so when the decision was made that there was going to be a change at base, I remember driving home, the phone call I got was Katie being like, so we're making a change, so-and-so's leaving. And Bree said, well, I just want Jeremy to be there then. And I was like, I didn't even know she knew my name, but apparently she's requesting me now. And so the next day I'm running base camp, which was truly only the second base camp in my life I had ever run before, which I didn't tell anyone because I was like, well, I'm going to fake this thing. And worst case scenario, they'll get rid of me too.
Yeah.
And then it turned into a wonderful experience where, kind of go in knowing that you're taking over for someone else and you're just going to have to build new relationships with everyone. And at the end of the day, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. It just, I can't even actually really explain what it is. It's just, I guess it's an energy that just comes into the trailer and how you approach it and communicate and all that type of stuff. And normally we're in some type of flurry or like stress or push for time or whatever it is. And just when someone can come in and directly communicate, but in a really lovely way, it makes all the difference. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's just
the energy. The energy is a great point because the first people the actors interact with in the morning is either the key or the base camp person, and then their hair and makeup team. So we're the first people to see if the actors show up and I'm standing there and I'm grumpy because I slept for 5 hours and I'm like, whatever, get in the trailer. I'm already, they're like, what's with Captain Grumpy over there? And then if they get into your trailer, they start going through the process. If I'm coming in every 15 minutes going, are you done yet? Hurry up. How much time? Like just essentially being a jerk. It's just going to rub them the wrong way. Like I'm killing the energy. And you could write a book on the vibe and the trailer and how important it is, especially for different days or different people, and what the mood needs to be, and whether there's music or there's not music, or whether it's quiet and there's candles. Like we've seen it all different ways. But it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of people on set won't ever really understand it unless you've been there, because it really can affect how the actor's day goes. And I heard a quote once, which is totally true, as a first AD, who said, at the end of the day, our job is to put happy actors in front of the camera. Like, it doesn't matter how great their schedule looks or how good the background looks or the hair looks that they like. If you're not putting a happy actor in front of the camera for the director, you're not going to get what you want. And so that's important.
There are times that I'm just like, it probably happens at least once on every job. I just want someone, it's normally a producer, I want to shrink them down and I want to just put them in the trailer and hide them in a corner, and they can just see what happens in the mornings, because they're pretty much just like, what are you guys even doing in there? And it's just oh my God, are you kidding me right now? It's like everything as fast as we can, but as calmly as we can, because the vibe's got to be good and we've got to keep everybody happy and we've got to make everything look good. But also we have to do it very quickly and, we're juggling. So, and then they're just like, why is it taking? What is happening? Rah, rah, rah. And it's just like, if I could just shrink you down and hide you in a corner so you could just watch our mornings unfold, then maybe you might understand.
Yeah, why don't they show up at 4 a.m. and come hang out with us while we deal with an actor who's going through like 2 personal life crises at the same time, and they come to your chair and are half venting about what's happening. And meanwhile, I show up and like, I think we'll be ready in like a half hour. Are you done having a mental breakdown yet? because
Seat's
you know what's
ready.
funny? Yeah, I hate that she's right about this. An actress saying this to me actually made me take a step back and think about it. Where one time I was saying something, I was trying to get an estimate out of an actress for something, and she was like, "Jeremy, I could be having a stroke right now, and you would probably go, great. Well, how long is that going to take?"
Yeah.
And she was being very snippy to me, but also at the same time, I think about that constantly, where I'm like, yeah, she's not wrong. That's probably what my next. It's bad that that's what my next thought would have been.
Yeah.
Been like, well, this is gonna take a while.
Yeah. It's like, do we call the ambulance? Because
Or are they gonna tell? Because she's in all the work today, so I don't. It's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, this is up my entire schedule.
Yeah, it's an extreme example, but it's also that happened. That happened on my first base camp, where she said that to me, and it made me take a step back from there and realize, like, there are other things going on in life besides the show. My job is if running base is to get the actors set when the set needs them, and I will do that to the best of my ability. But sometimes there's things that's out of all of our control, and all we can do is relay the information and hope for the best.
Yeah. I mean, everyone tries to leave all that at the door before they step in, but life creeps in, you know?
Yeah, I don't think the actors do it all. I think they save it until they step into your trailer. and then that's where it all comes out.
Yeah.
And I just hear snippets of it as I hand them like poached eggs and a green juice or something.
So, I mean, why is the relationship so important, like with the HOD and keys and stuff, and you specifically being the second?
I think it's important. It's important from the sense of, if I'm looking at things from the perspective of, we want to make our schedule and make our day. And really what I mean by that is, I mean more of, we want the director to get everything that they want to get for that day. That's ultimately what's more important, is helping the director's creative vision. Like, that's all we all want to do. And so the relationship between our departments is a lot of just time management and making sure people are ready for when they need to be ready. And if changes come up, talking about how long that takes and stuff like that. I think a lot of it comes into prep more than anything. I wish, at least in my experience for a lot of stuff I worked on, I wish hair and makeup got more prep time. I'm a big proponent of that, for the sake of, I just think there's so much that comes up and so many conversations that could be had earlier, where the day, you could really look at the days better. And especially when it comes to manpower things, or like, well, how long is this look actually going to take? And we could do some tests earlier to see how long different looks or changeovers and everything are going to be, and get the camera test done. And it's because so much of it, like, for, I guess a good example is, we were just prepping a movie where an actress was going to have a full, like, half of her face was burn scar situation thing. And through our testing, it was probably going to take her 3.5 hours to get ready every day. We never got to do a full test on her before we shut down, but that was the early estimate based on people who know what they're talking about in their experience, saying you're probably looking at 3.5 hours every day.
Yeah.
So now we have to relook at the whole schedule and go, well, this actor works top to bottom a lot, and now I have a 3.5 hour morning process on her, which, as you know, means at least an hour afterwards at the end of the night to, like, get it off. And then their turnaround. And now we have a problem. And it's a problem that, thankfully, we had a great makeup department head who warned us about this early in advance. And so it's something we could look at way earlier, versus if you had someone who either we didn't have a good relationship with, or was just kind of coming in and just doing the job and not thinking about those things, like they know but they don't tell us anything type situation, then we don't really realize it until the day, and it's even more of an issue. And it's like, oh, well, great, now everything we've planned doesn't really make a lot of sense, because neither of us are really asking the questions.
I think too, sometimes, well, a lot of the time, I don't know how long something's going to take. So I need to do it first, especially if it's something involved. I need to be able to actually at least do it once before, to even give any idea of how long I think it's going to take. Yes, I'm very bad at estimating. I just want to be right. I don't want to guess. So
Yeah.
I fully agree with being able to test that. And I do know that there are some artists who are just like, you know, they'll throw out a number, not put much thought into it. And it's just like, is it really going to only take that long? Like, are you considering everything? Because that number that you're giving is very important. It is the beginning of a day. So think about it.
Yeah, the testing is great. And I know too, there's even like, sure, we can hire doubles or bring in their stand-ins early or something like that, like in prep or on off days or whatever. So that way you're actually doing it on someone. But also we know that just because it worked well on this person, when you get the actual living actor in there, doesn't mean it's going to go the same way, because of course they have their thoughts and opinions, and maybe we didn't get them as early as we wanted. So now we have to deal with that. And it's a whole thing. And it, you know, the days, everything just slowly slips out of the grasp of your hand from the day.
Yeah. So cast availability is always a tricky one too.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, that's the bane of all of our existence, because we'd all love to have them, but they're very busy because they got to shoot the movie and then promote the movie and then do a TikTok video in the meantime. I don't know what they do with their free time, but
but also it's just like this, the directors that last minute cast. I'm like, it causes me so much stress, and just like it makes it difficult to be able to know how to crew just anything. You have to just say, yes, we've got it covered with the budget that we have, but I actually have no idea who like 80% of the cast are. So that's a guess.
Yeah. And then sometimes casting will just throw you a curveball where it's like, yeah, it's a shirtless scene and we cast this guy with a big back tattoo. I had that happen on this military show. It was this guy to do a boxing scene on this base, and he had a full back tattoo. And it was a very long time in the morning for him doing a full tattoo cover up and then constant touch-ups as he was in his boxing scene that we did all day long.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, not to put the actor out of work or anything like that, but like, was this the best decision that could have been made with time or money for number 45 on the call sheet? Like, could we have done something different? I'm slowly learning as my career expands the difference between a great producer and an okay one, or one who's, I guess, one I like less. From the sense of, like, the example would be, was recently doing something where there was a lot of discussion about, number one, on the call sheet's hair and what the hair was going to be. And what everyone really needed was push from the producer on kind of telling the creatives, like, look, you have to make a decision, because you can't just a week out from shooting, or even 2 weeks, like 2-3 weeks out from shooting, you can't decide, all right, this is what we want the wig to be, and then expect a feature quality wig to be ready on the day. Not only the wig, but then you also want like the doubles and everything like that.
Yeah.
The amount of money you're going to spend getting that wig done in time is just not. You were better off kind of forcing people to make creative decisions earlier, so that way you could get it right, instead of stressing everything and wondering why everything costs so much money. It costs so much money because you didn't make up your mind.
Yeah. But they also need to, the hair person needs to educate people on that as well. It's just like, well, 6 weeks out, it's going to be normal price. Any less than that, the price is just going to keep going up. So the sooner I can get a decision, the sooner we can, like, that's normally how my brain is and communication is working.
Yeah, and to be fair to the producers, as we know, sometimes you can warn them all you want and they're not going to listen. You're like, you know this is coming up and you have to tell us, or else it's not going to, and they go, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, some people listen, some people don't. A great example, Damien Chazelle, I gave him a solid deadline date to figure out what he wanted to happen to Margot's hair. Because I was just like, we have to get a wig made. You need to tell me by Friday, the whatever. And it was down to the date and the morning of, and he was just like, and he kept saying, I know I need to let you know by Friday. I know I need to let you know by Friday. I will. It's going to happen. But it's just, he was open and listened to me and understood what I needed to happen. So he made the decision, which
is fantastic.
Yeah, doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah. Oh God, we know that. Or yeah, because sometimes the changes are coming from an even higher up source than that, the people who sit in an office somewhere in LA and think fun things, and then all of a sudden we have to make the magic happen.
Absolutely. So what are some of the problems that stand out to you, like prep, scheduling, the dance with actors, turnarounds? How can we help in these situations?
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head a bit with just the honesty with the estimates. And I realize it's so annoying having the person come in and go, well, how much longer do you think, or whatever. And the truth is, though, is that a good base camp person is not going to come in and ask that every day, because by week 2 of a job, if not 1, you should be able to walk in the trailer and kind of look and see where someone is in the process and know, okay, they have 20 minutes left. Like they're doing this, and this now. That usually means they're out of the trailer in 20 minutes and I can leave them alone. Because every second we spend talking to you about how much more time do you need is like another second you're not doing the thing. It's like, well, I had to pause and look at what I was doing. So now there's another like 30 seconds gone.
I totally feel that. I feel it every time. I'm just like, me having this lengthy conversation with you is stopping me from doing this. And you know what normally happens? I know that I was just talking about producers coming into the trailer, but I did mention I wanted to shrink them down and hide them. It normally seems to be when you're so pushed for time and they kind of come in to see what is going on, but they slow the entire process down. Absolutely. Because it's like they think that we're just in there like having a party or something, and they need to come in and just gently be like, okay, it's time. We need to get this done. But they do it with the friendly, jovial, like not letting the actor, in on that, time is crunched and all that type of stuff. And the actor turns their head, starts talking, moving around, and you're like, okay, yeah, now I can't really keep doing what it is that I'm doing. So you're completely fucking this up. What are you doing? Get out of here. I don't know
that's
how
a death knell for sure.
I don't know how you stop that from happening, but it's just, you have to trust that the person trying to get it done is actually trying to get it done as fast as they can. And I know that that is not the case all the time. There are some people in there just not paying attention to time, having a party and fucking around. But most of the time, hopefully.
Well, you guys have the better coffee machine normally, so it's just what happens.
It's just what happens.
When you're already behind, and there's good and bad to this, the producer director going in the trailer conversation thing, in my mind, that stops the clock, because nothing productive is happening. Like, oh, well, they were in the middle of finishing like their lips or doing some eyeshadow, but now the director wants to like have a creative conversation in the trailer because he thinks it's going to go faster. And then no, it's going to slow everything down because the actor wants to look them in the eyes, or it has to speak when can't have someone like messing with their lips the whole time. Yeah. If I'm not around, or the Basecamp person doesn't know, there's usually I'll get a text about it. It's been like, so-and-so's in the, a good example, actually, there's sometimes where this does benefit. And a weird example was I ran base on the show Kidding on season 2, and Jim Carrey's number 1 on that. And he's every story you've ever heard about him is all true, but also I think he's fantastic. I would work with him again in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. But every morning, about halfway through his process, the showrunner and whoever the director was would come in and they'd have this kind of creative conversation about the day. And usually I'd get a text from Anne or Cheryl going, hey, so-and-so's in the trailer. So like it's at a pause. And it's like, okay, like nothing any of us can do about it. I'm not going to tell them to keep working because then they'll get kind of sassed back from the talent or the director or whatever. But that conversation happening in the trailer probably just saved it from happening on set, and might have even changed some things that are happening on set. So there are times where there's a benefit to it, as terrible as it is. Yes, we just cost 20 minutes getting them ready, but we might have saved a half hour on set of creative conversations and changes that now they can get ahead of.
Yeah. When you see that it's that type of conversation, it is, I would normally send a text and be like, this is happening. I can't work right now. Or they might sneak out of the trailer and maybe the base camp person hasn't seen them. And it's just like, okay, they just licked my chair.
Oh,
I don't know.
Sneaky actors are the fun ones where you really just kind of have to. It's like, well, I don't. They were there and now they're not. I don't know how they do it.
But you got to communicate.
Yeah. Going back to the estimates thing, there are times too where sometimes we're asking how much time do you think you need, or how. This is more of an example of the actor showed up late or we're way ahead of schedule, and so we're halfway through the day and we're asking you how much time you think you need left on this person. And usually it's because there's a plan A, B, and C. And depending what your answer is, depends what plan we can go. And plan A, B, and C are usually all fine to do. It's not like, oh no, we have to do plan C, our day is ruined.
Yeah.
And it's just whatever your answer is, we're going to go for that plan. If you're way early on your estimate, it's sometimes almost as bad as if you're way off, because all of a sudden the actor's like, well, I'm ready. Why aren't we doing this? It's like, well, we were told you were going to take another hour and then you took 15 minutes. So now you're going to sit around for a half hour because we're doing this other shot because we thought we needed to kill some time.
Yeah.
The other thing too, and I think this should come more from my department side, I think, when they're relaying information, is I feel like sometimes there's a forgetfulness of the costume aspect of things when it comes to timing.
Yeah.
And the information we're relaying. So, I mean, a million examples from Captain Marvel of the sense of like, if Jem is in your chair and I know that set's going to be ready in like 20 minutes, that means she would have to be done now because it takes that long to get the costume on her. And that's not costume's fault. That's just the nature of the beast and how long superhero costumes take and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if I had someone coming in and being like, well, we'll be ready in 20, the actor or actress might think, oh, well, I have 20 more minutes here. Like I feel like sometimes costumes gets left out of the thought process and how long things take in the morning.
Yeah.
Especially on the very complicated costumes or period pieces or all this other stuff.
So how would you suggest? I mean, So they need to kind of come in and say that, but also mention at the end, and they still have to dress.
Yeah, it's more of a mix of, I've actually started doing it on my call sheets of putting, if it's a standard where it's they go to hair and makeup and then they go to costumes, get ready. I know there's plenty of examples where it's like they put on an underlayer and then they go to the hair and makeup and then they come back to the trailer and put this on. Then they go back to makeup. Then they do this and et cetera, et cetera. Those are the most fun. It needs to definitely come from the production world relaying the information, but then I think there also needs to be a little bit of understanding from the other side. Like we're not just rushing you to try to get, like, there's like 3 other people who are also about to get rushed because this person showed up late or because it took longer or whatever. Like taking 5 minutes longer to do one thing, like it kind of like whatever the phrase is, where like it kind of rolls downhill as far as like, well, now this is 5 minutes behind, so this is 10 minutes behind, so this is 15, and like it just gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah,
it snowballs, Jeremy.
Yeah, snowballs. Thank you. I don't know. It's kind of like what we were when you originally texted me about doing this. When we were talking about things to talk about. It's such a balancing act of things, because I know that good quality people in any department, no one ever wants to make the director or set wait on them. That's never anyone's goal.
Yeah.
And so like no one's doing it on purpose, but it sometimes, because doesn't it seem so obvious where it's like you just have to be honest with your times, but in the same sense, it's really, we're at the mercy of the actors and the personalities.
Yeah.
And so you could be the best estimate person in the world. If the person put in your chair though is having an off day or it's something else going wrong, like you can only do so much there.
Yeah. From my perspective, And from coming from a place where we did both hair and makeup, so I was very clear when I looked at a call sheet, even if I was coming in as an assistant or whatever it was, I knew what time they were coming to hair and makeup, and I knew what time they needed to go to their next place. So it was written in ink how much time I had. I came here, I was just like, oh, okay, I know what time they come to hair and makeup, but are they going to makeup first? Are they going to hair first? If those two are not communicating, that is difficult. And then you see that they have a set time, like on set, but it's just like, okay, but when do they need to be in costume? So my question always, if I haven't given times for whatever reason, if I'm not the head of department, whatever it is, I need to know what time they need to be out of my chair. So that helps me watch my time a lot more. And then, as you're saying, with all the things that could happen in between that you can't really plan for, that's when you guys do buffers, right?
Yeah. You know, no one likes to admit that they're buffering, but we're always buffering.
So I have been in a position where I was on something and we were working we had a schedule of chair placement, you know, every day. It's just like, okay, this person's going to that hair person first. They'll be in there from this time to that time, and then they'd go to makeup from this time to that time. But I kept stressing, it's just like, you have this person coming into me at 10 o'clock and out at 11, but they're in the makeup chair at 11. It's like, what if they need to go to the bathroom, or they're going to go get a coffee, or they just wander out and start putting on half their costume or whatever it is, and they might need to go to another trailer, but it's just all those little minutes. And I'm taking my 10 o'clock to 11 because I need every fucking minute of that hour. And then, of course, as you say, that snowballs. And it's just like, we had the first AD come from set and come down and talk to us. And I was just like, constantly just felt like I was not being heard of the timing doesn't work because you're not giving even 3 minutes in between, you know, these 5 people that we have stacked up. And yet at the end of it, that all adds up to being this many minutes late to set because you're not putting those little increments of time in between that are so important. And it wasn't until I fully snapped back at the first AD that he kind of looked and was like, okay, well, we need to fix that. I was just like, oh my God, thank goodness. But it seems like common sense, but I guess they're just like, I don't know where we get that extra time from. So that's always incredibly difficult because you only get so much pre-call, but they expect you to do so much in that time, and then they don't want you to hire any extra people. So it is, you know.
This all reminds me of 2 things. One is how you were saying it had the different times of when they leave your chair and then when they would go to costume go set. Now that you're saying it, made me realize that I stole that idea from an international call sheet. I was doing reshoots for a project and the original production shot overseas. And I noticed that it was actually helpful for me in prep to go look at it and be like, oh, well, they spend this much time in hair and makeup. And then it took them this long to get into the costumes. And then it was this long for them to travel to set. So I modified my call sheet to start saying that. So people could see well, I need them going to get dressed at this time. It's not because some very basic whatever call sheets, it will just say hair and makeup at 7, set 8:30. There's nothing.
Yeah.
What does any of that mean in between? And
it seems very relaxed.
Yeah. And listen, when you're on season 8 of a TV show, and it's not a period piece or anything like that. It's a straight show. Maybe that's all you need. No one needs to the nitty-gritty details. They figured it out 5 years ago. Yeah. But there's never anything wrong with giving out more information. It just helps everyone. I'm a total word vomiter with information. I will just tell everyone everything because I'd rather it be the second time I've told you something or the second time you've heard this information than you never hear it. Yeah. And it just makes my job easier if we just tell everyone, I'm never going to gain anything by hiding information that's helpful to the whole crew.
Well, yeah, same for us. I mean, I go beyond to let everybody know how long everything's going to take, and for my team as well. I got into a rhythm a few films back of actually either on a Friday. Normally my Monday was my Monday conversation would have to happen on Friday verbally, normally, or just very quickly in an email. But then on my weekend, I'd actually have a shared pages or shared PDF or whatever it was, and I would have all of my team listed, who they were doing and how long they needed. And if I'm working with a makeup person that's into doing that as well, then they would put theirs in, and it would be the whole week, if everything went to schedule and the schedule didn't change, that the AD and PA, Basecamp PA, would know who's doing who and how long they need. So it's all on paper.
This is why I love you.
So they can just refer back to it. And it's those times where, and I would, my team would also be able to see that shared document. So if I got any timing wrong, then they could chime in and be like, I feel like I'm going to need 40 minutes, not 30, because they haven't been in for 2 weeks. So I'm going to just need a little bit of extra time. So we can adjust it. But when I go and do all that work and give everybody that information and nobody pays attention to it, I'm like, why am I trying to help everybody out here if you're not actually going to, it's on the PDF. It's on the PDF.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who's going where, and then I got into the habit of printing that out and making sure it was on everybody's station so they knew what was happening. There was no wasting time of the poor Basecamp PA going, so who's doing who this morning when you've got 50 fucking cast coming in? It's organized and you know what is happening.
That's massive, especially people trying to have that conversation day of, or people who aren't trying to have that conversation the day before or the week before, it's on huge days, way before. It just you're just setting yourself up for failure and on both sides of in both departments, because that a lot of times my morning conversation with the department heads or the keys is just, I work a lot from set. I'm never usually in the trailer. And so a lot of it is I'll just be texting the first thing in the morning. As soon as I know they're awake and on the clock, I'll text the keys and the department heads, kind of just a screenshot of what the front looks like with actor times. And then also what I put down for the pre-calls, just so it's we're all on the same page. Good. Cause I've asked for that information already of who's doing who and how long it takes, or they've already been gracious enough to tell me that, or it's the same people it always is type situation.
Yeah.
And so now we've all saved ourselves from having to find time where we're both available to sit and rethink about the same thing that happens every 5 days.
Yeah. But also when that happens, Jeremy, my brain, I have a fucking million things going on, and I'm trying to cover 3 actors on set who are doing whatever crazy shit that they're doing. And I just cannot have that conversation about who's doing what and how long it's going to take without it. If it comes out of my mouth, I want it written down and I want a copy of it as well, so I can be able to refer back to it. It's no good me just going, oh, this person's doing that, it's going to take about 45 minutes, this person's, and I'm just guessing all this shit. And then I get to that next morning and I'm like, who did I say was doing what? So that's why I just have to really take a moment and be able to sit down and plan it all out. And sometimes, you have, say your key has, 10 different people that they look after on a film over the span of that film. But all of a sudden there's one day that all 10 of her people are in that day. And you're just
all
oh my
at the same
God,
time.
okay, this is a whole situation. I need to really plan ahead for this. So yeah, planning for me. Oh
yeah. Sometimes you all are so busy from 4 or 5 a.m., your chair's just constantly being filled with people until well after crew call, because there's another wave coming in, and then it's 3 hours after where maybe you have a chance to breathe. And of course you've totally taken that NDB that they're gonna yell at you to take somehow in that time frame. And it's so sometimes you truly are just so busy that talking about it on the day doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not like you're going to get bad answers. It's just going to make people grumpy. I'm a obnoxious over prepper, which I'm totally fine with. But what I've told people is I'd rather show up every day and have quote unquote nothing to do. I've already prepped it all. I'm just going to show up and things are going to that work's already done. There's nothing I'm rushing in to do because two things are always going to go wrong, or not wrong, but like two things are always going to change. It's unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so now I have time to deal with those things. Mm-hmm. And if that doesn't happen, great. I'm going to go to the catering truck and talk to Mara and goof around and enjoy my life for like 10 minutes for once.
Yeah, that's true. Nice. Because imagine that for me, doing that PDF, and yes, I'm normally doing it on my weekend, but it's like 10 or 15 minutes, whatever. Me doing that stops me from having lengthy, annoying conversations every day for the next week.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And when I say annoying, it's not because the person is annoying, it's because the conversation itself that you have to have is annoying when you're like, as I say, eyeballs deep in insanity. And you're just like,
sometimes the person is annoying. It's okay.
Not normally, but it's just the conversation. I'm just like, so I will be honest that there are times that if we're like 3 weeks in and this PDF thing's been happening and you have all this information and someone keeps asking me, like I never created that PDF, I start getting very short with people. It's just like, I will simply respond, it's all on the PDF. It's all on the PDF. Just walk away. Because I'm just like...
This is like your version of me going like, it's on the call sheet.
Oh my God. My beautiful PAs that I adore and love to work with, they have to deal with me asking stupid questions every day. I'm that person. I'm my own thing that I hate.
Well, to be fair, you and me also work on a lot of projects where it's on the call sheet isn't a helpful answer.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't get one. Or like you've gotten the call sheet, but it has your call time on it.
Yeah. Or it's on my phone and I have to scroll through a million things to try and find it.
You have to log into Synchronize and give up your social security number and the names of your firstborn to get into Fifth Kind to then look at a PDF that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's
you need
the only
that
way
Google and what are the authenticator?
Oh, yeah. You need your authenticator. Then you have to call Barry Curtis directly and say, please, sir, can I have the call sheet? And then he'll give it to you because he's nice. But
yeah, it's and those are normally my questions. My PA that's running first team on set, I'll be like, what time's lunch?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember this, on Captain Marvel, Katie used to have me text. I don't know if I sent it to you or if I was sending it to Camille, probably both. I used to text everyone in hair, makeup, costumes their call times for the next day at the end of every day. And when I was talking to other trainees about that or thinking about it, I was like, this seems like the most insane hand-holding in the world to me. Where I'm like, really? You can't look at it yourself? But then now that I'm in that position, I totally get it from the sense of sometimes you can't log into that thing. Like this is definitely a specific project incident, but like sometimes you can't log in or get the call sheet or you don't get the email, and it's easier if someone's just sent it to you. I'm in no way saying this is something everyone should do all the time, but there's nothing wrong with putting in the extra effort to help out a fellow teammate of yours, so that way we can all have a better day the next day.
Yeah. And it might just be that it's a second, I don't know, like a backup. Like you get that text, I've just worked 18 hours. I have an hour and a half to drive home. I get home, I'm cross-eyed. I'm looking at this teeny tiny freaking call sheet and then going, oh yeah, okay, that's my call time. And Jeremy texts me at the same time. Okay, I've got it. That's definitely what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I'm not reading it incorrectly. You know, this is the message that I got. Okay, those two things line up. It matches. Okay, I'm good.
Now at this point, I'll usually just ask someone to help me send it to. This is depending the departments and how they work, but usually at least get it to the keys for everyone, because I know that if they have anyone that they're worried about, like they can at least relay the info easier.
Yeah.
Especially with day players. Sometimes with day players, it's, there was a typo in their last name, and so they're not going to get the email until like 8 hours later when someone finally figures it out.
Yeah.
Or they never got a prelim and they have a 2 a.m. call time. And so it's just sharing information, more information for everyone. We're all on the same team. I'm not a big sports person, but it is, we all are playing one big team sport together. Like there's no us versus them mentality.
No.
If that's the way you're thinking about things, I don't want you on my team. You're thinking about it wrong.
It's dangerous. And what about large background days or incredibly large cast days when there are additional hair and makeup teams working? What are some problems that usually can arise?
Starting with the large cast, it's funny. This actually kind of goes to your chart thing. And tell me your opinion. Anytime I've ever made kind of a chair chart, without really telling hair and makeup I'm doing this, and then present. Usually I'm just not like, here's what you're doing. It's more of I'm making it because I'm trying to wrap my brain around the day, or I'm trying to help someone else understand the day. I'd worked on this show called Strange Angel, which was a period piece, and we had one day where we needed 22 actors all on set, all 100% ready to go at call time. And the base camp was a 20-minute van ride from set. And the UPM wasn't understanding why 2 weeks out, when we started the episode, me and the key second were going, we need a 5-hour pre-call for people. And he was like, impossible, no way. This is television. We're never doing that. We're like, you don't understand. And so I had to make the chair chart to show them, unless you're going to hire a lot more additionals and then also have a conversation with the actors about how they're normal people who've been doing them for 6 months are not going to do them. This is the only way to get it done. And so we made it, and then I showed it to calm the UPM down more than anything. And then when I was showing it to hair and makeup, there was some kickback, this is never how it works. We're not going to do it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's fine. I'm not saying this is the end all be all of things. This is just imagine a helpful guide that I use to try to make the day work. Yeah. And then by halfway through the day, the same people who were naysaying it were just like, where's that piece of paper? Who's supposed to be in my chair now? What am I doing? It's when things are crazy, it's sometimes nice to have something to latch onto.
I don't have to think about things as much.
Yeah.
It's literally listed down what you're doing next and how long you have.
Yeah. It's you can just kind of go on autopilot and be like, oh, it's 10. I should have this person. Where are they? Great, here they come. Instead of having to think, you can kind of go on autopilot. And it is totally true. You could be a half hour into that day and that whole chart could go out the window for reasons that are no one's fault.
Yeah.
It's usually an actor's fault, but no one that we can control's fault. And it is what it is. But you at least kind of have a way to wedge yourself back to victory if possible.
Well, when you have it all laid out like that as well, you can look at it in a way of just okay, well, we'll just swap it. If they go, can you take them in makeup first and that person comes to me or whatever it is, you can just look at it. I think it truly comes from my brain enjoying that is from working in salon and having an appointment book.
Oh, interesting.
Your whole day, every day is stacked. And it's appointments. So you will look at it and know, okay, I've got a haircut from this time to that time, and then this person's coming in, and then that person, they're going to color her, I'm going to blow dry it, whatever. So it just, that's just been in my brain since I was 18.
What I was thinking of earlier that you brought up was kind of the buffer time. And this is even bigger on big cast days because, I guess we're slowly going back to it now where now a 10-station trailer will be filled with 10 hair and makeup people and 10 actors in a chair all at the same time.
Yeah, please.
And just that alone, there's 10 minutes of your day gone because they're going to goof around and talk and you can only do so much. And then oh, I haven't worked with you yet. And then it's the inevitable. You have to buffer for it. And I think honestly, that just comes down to brutal honesty to the actors. That sometimes has to come from my end, where I give them the call time and they go, I don't take that long. And I have to be like, well, yeah, you only take this long in hair and makeup, but then you also show up and you eat your eggs for 15 minutes first, no matter what we tell you to do. And then you'll go to hair and makeup. And then you take a smoke break. And then you go back in. And then you do this. So like you're showing up at this time so that way you're ready at this time, not like even they forget about how much time it takes to spend their day, walk between places, stuff like that. And I think it's more on us than anything to just be brutally honest with them about that's where the buffer is. That's what it's for. So you can enjoy your time and you don't have me pacing outside being like, how long is it going to take you to use the bathroom? They've been ready for 5 minutes. Like,
yeah,
we've already buffered that in.
I think I'm a little bit of a naughty hairstylist because I do encourage my cast to come sit in my chair now. And, one day someone's going to turn around and be like, fuck off, I'm talking. But I'll just be, I'm a hands on hips kind of like, yep, we got to do this. You can have that conversation in a minute. You got to come down here.
Yeah.
I mean, every cast member's different, and some that you can kind of come up and put a hand on their shoulder and they'll be like, oh, yeah, sorry, I'll talk to you in a moment. And they come and sit down. But I know other people, you just can't even feel like you can be like, hi.
And there's a bit of this that also goes into with how long a person takes. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Like I know there are actors that take 4 to 5 hours. And that's even some guys, which sounds crazy. And then it's for something that's like not special effects, not period or whatever.
Yeah.
And you tell them that and they go, I know I need my time. And it's like, okay. And as long as the producers know and everyone realizes like, that's why the person takes that long, it is what it is. But then sometimes they go like, oh, I can be done faster. I can do this. It's like, I'm sure you can be done faster. But every time I've seen someone try to be done faster, because it's their whole game of like, oh, they're trying to say I take 2 hours. We can do this in an hour and a half. Sure, you're done in an hour and a half, but then you're not happy with. You have to also the performer has to be happy with how they look after that hour and a half time.
Yeah.
Instead of what they normally look like after the 2 hours, maybe. Like it's this weird like give and take of the timing and how long things take and happiness in front of the camera.
Yeah, happiness in front of the camera. And so what about with large background days when you have loads of additionals come in? Has there been stuff that you've seen that you're like, oh, I wish this was organized?
Yeah,
a little better?
That is one where I'll start talking about large background days as soon as someone wants to listen to me talk about large background days. Like there is no...
like day one, I'm ready to talk about background.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know you're not on for 3 weeks, but just actually, when it's department heads that I've worked with before and we have a good relationship, I will randomly text them updates, just like, listen, I know you're not on yet, or this is like just a warning about this, and they'll go like, okay, thanks, see you in a week, like, and that's all it needs to be. And this definitely is a both ends thing where sometimes the AD team hires 20 extra PAs, and then hair and makeup has 40 to 60 to 80 extra people there that day that are getting people ready. And the worst is when there's clearly like no trickling down of information on either side of like what's really happening or what the process needs to be or even like how important some of this is. Because there are the times where we do the different layers of the background where it's like we have the A group who's going to come in early and they're going to look fantastic because we're going to feature them and they'll be near camera. And then group C or D or whatever, it will never be within, like, we have to swear to you on a blood oath that we will never put them within 200 feet of the lens. Like, they'll always be in the back. Please don't spend a bunch of time on them because we don't have it. We didn't plan for that. But if that information isn't relayed on either side, like if my team doesn't know that there's these different groups and this is the way things are go. And then if hair and makeup doesn't know, like, well, there's these other people, the later people, we've been told by our bosses, like, don't worry about them so much, like, make them presentable and get them in, get them out. then it kind of turns into a disaster. Because on both sides, you have people who show up and they're just day playing and they want to make a good impression. And sometimes I think they don't realize that the good impression can mean just getting it done quickly, not like no one's going to look at the background artist number 900 who's like a million miles away and be like, they look fantastic. I'm glad that they were 2 hours late to set, but they look fantastic.
Yeah, there's two big things there. That one of them is something that I find doesn't happen a lot locally here. And that is, I feel the need for a background supervisor or coordinator needs to be happening a lot more than what it is. That needs to be a position. Someone to run the crowd room. Whether there's 10 background or 100 or 200, you need to have somebody, and you need to push for it. If it's that type of job, you need to say when you're starting that project, listen, I need this amount of people, with cast, but looking at these background days, I'm going to need somebody full time to be coordinating background. So they're going to be going to fittings, they're going to be, hiring additional help, they're going to be overseeing all background. So then they are there every single morning, making sure that everybody that they hire has all that information. They can make sure everybody, NDBs, they can make sure, and they're doing that every day. So it's their job. That, I think, is incredibly important, and I just don't think it seems to happen enough. I feel like a lot of the time it's just one of the main team that kind of pops in before they start and just goes, okay, they've just got to look like everyone's like a clown today. Okay, have fun, guys, and runs away. And it's just like, no, hang on a minute. This group of cats that we have need to be herded, and you need to tell everybody what's happening. And, if they're taking too long, it's just like someone needs to be there to be like, okay, you're out of your chair in 2 minutes. You got to get your next person in. We've got to hustle. And then the other thing I think that is like a deep-seated trust thing is just not believing that ABC thing works.
Oh, I 1,000%.
It's just like, I don't trust you.
Everything you said is true. On both points. Anytime I've been in a situation where that background coordinating position exists, it's been fantastic, especially because they do think about like, oh, there's a fitting day. Maybe we have to go do haircuts that day or do some wig test, or even if it's special effects makeup, just look at the person's features to make sure this is going to work or this is not going to work or something like that. And that goes way smoother and it's way better. And I agree. So bigger jobs with a lot of background should do that. To all the producers listening, you're just going to save yourself time. The trust thing is, you're right. There's nothing else I could say about that because
I don't know if it's a communication that like everybody has to be on the same page. It's just like otherwise it almost gets left to that like one person from hair and makeup trying to communicate, and they're seeing the shot, and it's just like, oh my God, no, you can't have these 5 people on the front. Like they were in group like Z or Z, you guys say, sorry.
How dare you?
Stupid sidebar note, but when I would sing the ABCs on like Sesame Street or whatever, and it would be like Z, and I'd hear Mum yell out from like the kitchen, and she'd be like, Z, it's Z. Sorry.
It's Z, and you'll use the metric system.
Still do. So, yeah, it's just like if everybody is on that same page, like through to the first AD of knowing who should be in front and who should be way at the back and on top of it all day, then I think like we could feel safer in that situation.
Yeah, and I think it even needs to be like they don't have to be so involved, but the director should also be made aware that that's the plan for that. Like in prep, they can be told on this day we're going to have this, and so when we plan out the shots, we just so that way they don't go, hey, that person back there, let's do a close up on them. Be like, no, that's not how it's going to work. Especially on big prosthetic shows where sometimes you have that's where I see it happen the most, where it's like, all right, these are the pieces that are full. They're going to take hours, prosthetic features, and like you could shoot amazing close-ups on them. They're going to look great. And then you're going to have the next group that is going to look good, but like, they could be around everyone, but we'll try our best to hurry them up. And then you're going to have the group in the back that's just putting on a mask, and they have a custom rubber mask, and that will be molded in, and they'll wear that. And everyone, like you said, it's the trust is the most important part, because everyone needs to know this group is way back there and we're never bringing them up. And when you're planning out everything, and when the AD team's setting the background, you got to know that there's a shot over there later. So that way when they move the camera, it's like, oh, great. Now we're doing a shot that just looks straight into the pullover mask group. Whose bad idea was this? Like, it's usually our fault.
No, but it is the thing of prep and everybody being on the same page and having those discussions early on, because it's just like, it's either going to be that the director understands that and is cool with it, or they're a director that's just like, no, I want to be able to pull any person at any time to be featured. And then that leaves it to everybody else to work out, okay, well, how are we going to process all of these people? We're just going to have to bite the bullet and, whatever it is, or someone higher up says, no, director, you can't do that. But it's having those conversations well in advance to understand what is happening.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know there's something that you wanted to touch on, and I completely understand this because I'm a bit of a control freak, as everybody's probably worked out from this one episode. And I'm not a fan of the idea of like someone else finishing my work. So like reshoots or pickups, depending where you live in the world. So tell me, what has been your experience with these, and how can we do better to help those that are kind of left to tidy up loose ends?
So this was a great time, actually. I was hired to do 10 days of Spider-Man reshoots. This is the last Spider-Man movie. And that turned into about 2.5 years worth of work of nothing but Marvel reshoots. It was with the same crew and everything for the most part. It was the same costume team, the same producers, the same AD team and PA. Like, we were all hired to work 10 days in July, and then we worked for about 2.5 years straight.
That's amazing. Can I butt in and just tell you something funny that you'll probably appreciate about reshoots? Because, of course, Marvel and, so much action stuff anyway, always you just know that there's going to be some reshoots happening.
Oh, yeah.
When I was working and prepping on Oppenheimer, and we had a cast member who there was a bit of back and forth about hair length, and because he had to go do some reshoots before he came to us, and they needed his hair to be shorter, but we needed it longer. And Christopher Nolan, he just bluntly turns and says, well, that director should have got everything he wanted the first time he shot.
God, I love him.
Oh my God. Bold. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just like, in that moment, I was just like, oh, there's no reshoots for Oppenheimer. He doesn't do reshoots. This isn't happening. And I was just like, so it can be done. It just made me laugh. So every time I hear about reshoots, I'm just like, should have got it right the first time. Well, easier said than done.
Yeah, because the thing in some feature, like Nolan is going to shoot what he wants to shoot, and that's the movie. No one's telling him, hey, you know what would make this movie better is if Hulk showed up at the end, and now we need to actually tie that into the next one. Yeah. So if you could reshoot the explosion at Los Alamos, that'd be great. Thanks. Yeah. Here's some money. And
so please continue. Sorry, I derailed you.
No, I love working on stuff that doesn't have reshoots, because then you get it right. Although I do like more work and job safety. So I'll always take it. Yeah. But so a big chunk of the reshoots we were doing, though, is we did it all in Los Angeles, and none of it was originally shot in Los Angeles. Yeah. And whenever we could, the first call the producers always made for hair and makeup and costume, the costume designer and the DP was always to whoever originally did it and see if they were available. And this was right after the comeback, like when everything was ramping back up after COVID. So no one was available for the most part. or it was overseas people and there were sometimes visa issues and they were just busy, or sometimes people said no, they're like, I'm good, I did that job once, I don't need to come back. And so I lived in this world where we lived and died by the continuity book, because it was these very qualified hair and makeup department heads coming in and having to just look at this book and look at the dailies and dig through the boxes from assets and go, all right, what did they do? How did they do this? Let's recreate it, because it's going to cut right into the movie, so it has to be perfect. And sometimes there was people that had fantastic continuity, but I actually complimented Sincere on his continuity for Jonathan Majors in the Ant-Man movie. That book was flawless, because we had to do some stuff and the makeup artist wasn't available, so Kim Felix's makeup, and it was like, it's all laid out, this is easy, this is great. And then there's other projects where it's like the book's like missing pages, or like nothing makes sense, or it doesn't exist sometimes. And I know there's a whole back end to that aspect of things, because sometimes it is people just protecting themselves and making sure that they're going to get the call for work is what can happen. Or that's ridiculous though, Jeremy. That's a terrible thing. It does sound ridiculous.
Like, would you rather do that or somebody not understand what you did and then do something crazy that doesn't fit in with what you did? So at the end of the day, your job work looks like shit? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and yet
people do it.
And yet people do it. And this isn't me, because I'm not experienced in hair and makeup. I can't do a cat's eye. I don't know what I'm talking about. But it was people who do know what they're talking about when I was like, well, this was who the department head was, and this is what exists from it. And then they're like, oh, I know what happened here. Okay, this all makes sense now. Like, once I said the names, they're like, this makes more sense why there's nothing, or why like the information is so bare bones and almost useless. Because now we have to call them, and that's what happened, and it works. So good on them for the bad lessons I'm teaching.
But call them for what? To have to offer them that? What if they're busy?
Well, then it's getting them involved. It's almost like a level of like, you need me. Like, even if I'm not available, you at least have to make the effort for the phone call. But and for department heads, they're going to do that anyways. But sometimes it's less than that.
Right. I put my contact details in the continuity book, because I'll just be like, I just put a little note in there. It's just like, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll do what I can to answer them. But that's not because I don't, if I'm on something else, I don't want to be involved in like fully helping somebody. But if it's just like a few questions of just like, because you try and fill it out as thoroughly as you can, or you think that the photos are good, but then when it actually comes to be done, they might be like, what was happening on this side of the head? There is, I don't know, So
yeah, I've actually never seen. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, where someone actually puts their name and info in it.
Because there's times too that it's just wigs or hair pieces or whatever have been rented or come out of my kit, or been rented from a rental house, and if I don't put that information in there, they're going to be like, well, where's this wig and why is it not in the box? So it's kind of like needing to actually put it in the continuity notes of just like, this wig was from my stock, I still have it, if you need it, reach out, or this came from this rental house, its rental number was, #347. So if they need it again, they can get hold of that rental house and be like, I need to rent this wig.
And I think that this just also goes to why it's so important for people to actually keep that information and to have it there. There was just a lot of not that information. And also sometimes I think there's from other departments, there's sometimes a weird, this is very little, it's not all the time, but there's like a negative stigma about personals and how like it's like, oh, well, they just do one person and they sit around, they don't really do anything. And it's like, there's a lot to, like when you're a personal, especially, like there's a lot to do and there's a lot to get done. Keeping up with the book is one of them. And sometimes if your person works, if it's one of those where like number one's in like every shot of the movie type thing, like even keeping up with the book sometimes is hard to do or hard to keep up with.
Well, you can't step away. You can't hand your actor over to somebody else to watch them so you can go back and sort your continuity out.
No, and like the one scene they're not in, they have like 2 doubles that are in it for something like that. And then that's just how it is. It's helpful too, because this is like a weird side anecdote, but it's helpful for people to know like who they need to get in touch with for things. There was when we were doing Wakanda Forever reshoots, there was a commercial that was trying to shoot at the same time as us because they heard that we had a lot of people in town, and they were deep into their prep, and they were using some of the actors, and we realized pretty close to that commercial shoot date that they had never called Camille or Joel about the shoot. And it's like, you're making a huge mistake here if you haven't like cut the deals with the people who have set this hair and makeup look for this whole world for 2 movies now. I just, I don't think they were aware of what they were getting themselves into. And thankfully, they eventually did make the right phone calls.
Yeah. It's just that, communication, again, comes back to, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because sometimes with reshoots, too, before anything, this is my obnoxious over-prepping, is the first thing that happens when I start a reshoot, because I'm admittedly getting way more prep than hair and makeup gets. And so what has become part of my job from that, just from the experience of multiple reshoots in a row, is the first thing I do is, what actors are we getting? Immediately pull all their assets. Like we need all of it. We don't know what we're doing yet. We need all of it. And then hopefully someone will give us dailies or screen grabs or something of like what we want to do. So that way we can start going through and being like, do we even have these pieces? Because sometimes the dailies and screen grabs aren't very helpful. Like we had a character once who everything was like a chest up shot of her. And so we're like, oh, this is the easy one. Like she won't take long. Well, it's like the one person who's not a crazy alien creature. And then we get the continuity book and realize like she shows so much skin and had so many tattoos that were put on her that we would have never known unless we had the wonderful book that told us like what we should be doing.
I don't understand that attitude of like, oh, they'll work it out. Let them try and work it out. It's like, no. This is originally your work, which you don't want someone to take over. It's just like if you were leaving a job, had to leave halfway through or something, would you not communicate with the person taking over that, what's going on? Or would you just walk out the door and go, good luck, see ya?
When the audience is watching the movie, they're never going to know, well, that scene, their wig was done by someone else. That's why it looked terrible. They're just going to see at the end of the day, like, hair by Jamie. Be like, wow, Jamie, she really slacked on that one scene. That was crazy.
And any other pet peeves, little or big things that our hair and makeup teams need to be more conscious of to help everything?
Nothing specific, honestly. I think just every job is so different that it's totally a job to job and a person to person thing. Yeah. So my pet peeves with one job is going to be different from another one, but I think it's just realizing we're all on the same team and that all we're trying to do is help the director achieve their creative vision. And so I apologize if I seem like I'm rushing you a little bit to make that happen, but the sun's setting and I just want to get that shot. That's usually what it is.
Time is money.
I guess this would be a pet peeve of sometimes it feels like, and this isn't just hair and makeup, absolutely. Like this is a couple different departments.
Yeah.
Where I think people don't realize like it doesn't really matter how good this person looks or this set looks or the lighting looks. If if we're on like a time crunch for either kid reasons or the sun setting or whatever, if we don't actually get to film it, it's never going to be in the movie. So no one's going to like, it doesn't matter. We actually need to get the shot. And we'll do the best we can to make sure that we have prepped enough and given everyone enough time to do their work properly. But sometimes it is what it is. So we gotta hurry up and shoot. Gotta go back to like the old school Roger Corman, just get it done style. Yeah.
And just walk away. Cross your fingers and walk away.
Yeah.
And just breathe. Breathe, guys, breathe. Yay. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me.
I'm hoping that people take away something. I'm sure they will.
Yeah. They'll be like, that guy was crazy and I hope to never work with him.
Well, if you're ever lucky enough to work with Jeremy, you'll be happy every day. That's all I can say.
Thank you, because I will make sure you get your poached eggs and your green juice.
You were talking about how you remember some people's breakfast orders, and that is haunting for you.
I've started trying to block a lot of them out, but yeah, like I don't know. I have to relook up my mom's cell phone number every time.
Yeah.
But since I've done 2 shows with him, I still am pretty sure I know what Tim's breakfast order is.
That's awesome.
I might know Laurel still too.
Yeah, maybe.
It's just, you know, when you're doing something every day for 8 months, it's ingrained in your brain whether you want it to or not.
Okay. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, thank you.